We have a few things that are updated due to virtual circumstances, and we want to also take you through the um, Hornet Hub process because that's confusing, and maybe if you haven't done it recently, it's tough to remember. And then have time for questions. And I think we're mostly just excited that Leadership Initiative is still happening and everything's going to be available for students in the fall. Of course, we won't be having any live events, but they should still be able to move along and complete their certificates. Ashley, do you want to say anything?
I think, yeah, just to echo what Haley shared, I think what's challenging sometimes is the transition in the way the program is executed from summer, specifically Summer Bridge, to the fall. And just wanting to make sure that we can kind of clarify some of the places where the students will ideally need to have more understanding of how to be self-sufficient in getting through the requirements. And then also just making sure y'all feel comfortable answering any questions that they may have. And also kind of with an understanding of Hornet Hub and where they can find things that they're looking for in case that they ask. Because oftentimes we go over it at the end of every workshop, but it's easy to miss. And it's definitely something that can become
I cannot hear anything. Can you all hear me? Okay.
I can hear you, Haley.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but I think I couldn't hear Ashley towards the end of her portion.
Let me switch. I was using my AirPods. Again, a beautiful invention. Thank you, Apple, but they're super finicky.
Okay, thanks, Erica.
Of course.
Cool.
All right, y'all. Sorry about that. Haley, whenever you're ready, I have some things that I can screen share just to kind of give some basic Hornet Hub navigation and then answer any questions that you might have, especially if you have any that specifically relate to adding events to the calendar and really ensuring that Hornet Hub can be our friend. It is definitely a very unique system, and we're still learning it ourselves and hoping to be able to create resources that answer any recurring questions that you have to make sure that we can all provide as many opportunities as possible for these young humans to have a great fall. But specifically, where I wanted to kind of start out is just some of the basic areas of the certificate requirements. So while most of the programs that are here have students that participated in Summer Bridge, that doesn't always necessarily mean that everybody completed their green certificate, which is totally fine. This happens every year. We're doing our best to make sure that before the semester begins, all of the progress that they did in Summer Bridge can be onboarded into Hornet Hub so that they could just kind of play catch up with maybe the one or two places where they need to complete things. In past, if we don't really kind of remember that there's still some catch up that needs to happen from Summer Bridge, and then we kind of directly just push them into the gold certificate, they're not able to earn their gold certificate until the green is achieved. So it really is important for us to really look at the involvement tab to see where the student is and to be able to kind of cater our support to helping them see that there may still be some outstanding pieces to complete from summer. And this could be because they missed a class, because homework wasn't submitted, but it is very straightforward. In fact, it's easier to complete area of growth requirements in the semester because there is not a reflection due afterward. So in the semester, they just actually have to attend the event and be credited for it. As a reminder, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. There are a couple pages built into Hornet Hub that serve as a virtual checklist, but I'll just stop really quickly for Haley.
So I just want to do a quick check-in because, Eric, I'm not sure if you're the Eric Garcia that I work with, who I know, or if you're a different Eric Garcia. But I kind of want to check in. Eric, where do you work?
I'm just doing the ISA position.
Oh, okay, cool. For what
EOP.
program? For EOP? Okay. And I just kind of wanted to check in and see first, do you all know, like, should we do a basic review of what the leadership initiative is?
Yeah, sure. That'll be fine with me.
Do you, okay. So well, the leadership initiative, awesome, is a certificate program at Sac State that's run through student organizations and leadership. And students go through 4 certificates basically. The green is first, so it's iterative, it builds. The first is green, and it has 3 different workshops and 5 areas of growth that students need to attend an event. And they have to complete these workshops and complete a reflection on a particular topic. And then they earn their green certificate. The gold certificate is next, and it's similar in that there are 3 things that we're trying to teach them. And each of those 3 workshops has a reflection. And then for the whole certificate, there's 5 areas of growth that they have to attend an event and do like a little write-up on it. And we're going to have virtual opportunities. And I'm going to pause myself. The Leadership Initiative Certificate program is modeled on the social change model. And the idea is that our students are citizens of our world, of our state, of our university, and that they have something to contribute. And we're trying to help them become aware of what they have to contribute and develop the awareness and the skills to put into action what they think could be different about the world. And so we're hoping that going through these certificates, they can start learning, the social change model basically starts in thinking about an individual, goes out to a group, then your collective responsibility, and then the 4th certificate kind of has them test it out, like test out what they've learned. So green, we talked about that. Gold, Hornet Pride is basically like expanding beyond the group into citizenship. And then the Leadership Initiative is the final certificate. And I'm going to let Ashley fill in because I'm new to all this.
I would say, honestly, you explained it beautifully. I think just kind of making sure that there is just an understanding of the very unique tweaks where there are changes in requirements. I think what's very helpful and what I would imagine is done intentionally, I can't say that for certain because I was not there when this program was created, is that the requirements for green and gold mirror each other almost exactly. So there really is a very easy transition from the certificate that we just supported the students with and what they can expect from the structure and the framework of what they're about to do in the fall. So I think that that's super helpful. Where I do think that we lose students, just from what I've seen in the last 3 years, is that in Summer Bridge, we create this wonderful utopia where we bring everything that's required to them. And so I think sometimes there may be a misperception about how they're supposed to find events, that it is their responsibility to do so. And now that we have a new system that they are finding workshops and area of growth opportunities through, if they're not sure how to use it, that can definitely be a barrier to their ability to accomplish these things. While we do classroom presentations and different opportunities where on a one-off basis we bring some things to the students, more often than not, the expectation for our staff is that they are guiding themselves through this process. And a lot of the time what we see with our students is that they are not yet sure how to ask for help. So even if they have no idea how to find events, regardless of whether or not it's been approved, they might not ask that until it's very late, and then it becomes very challenging for them to earn their certificate, which puts them a bit further behind should the expectation be for them to accomplish Hornet Pride in the spring. What I would love to do is to make meetings like this more mandatory, just so that we can always make sure that your staff really is understanding of how Hornet Hub works. It's very user-friendly, but it can be intimidating at first. And just making sure that some of the basics of where they need to go to accomplish certificate requirements can be found. So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Got a few tabs opened up just to kind of go through, just starting from our very beginning. So how to get to Hornet Hub. Hopefully everyone is seeing right now, I have the student organizations and leadership website up. Cool. So if you go to csus.edu/SOL, it'll take you to this homepage. And the first tab under resources is Hornet Hub. So I would say this might be the easiest way to get students to navigate. Technically, there's also a web address. It's csus.presence.io. But more often than not, I find students kind of have an easier time going about it through the SOL website. Regardless, there are 2 alternatives to get to this page. And once they hit that Hornet Hub button, no matter how they navigate to it, this is what their homepage is going to look like. Almost every single aspect of how our program is run is accessible through this navigation bar at the top. Events is where they can find things on our calendar, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Forms is where they're going to go to complete their post-workshop reflection forms. And that's definitely a distinction that I want to call out. In Summer Bridge, they do reflections for everything because it's such a class format that we want to ensure not only are we getting feedback on the workshops as we go, but that we're giving them some space to kind of process what they're learning since it's so accelerated. In the regular semester, they only complete reflections after attending certificate workshops facilitated by our staff. So for green, that would be green 1, 2, and 3. For gold, gold 4, 5, and 6. There are no other reflections that are needed from the students, just so much as they are attending and getting credited for all of these opportunities. And then finally, I think one of our favorite aspects of the new system is that it has given us the ability to track all their progress. We used to have all of those beautiful paper checklists that I'm sure many of you will remember from the olden days, where all of the certificate requirements were listed, and there were checkboxes and places where they could write in when they attended things and whether or not it was completed. And that's actually built into this system. So as they're being credited for things, not only will that show on their involvement tab, which I'll show you in a second, but it will also show in a very special section of the Hornet Hub site that's under opportunities and experiences, that they have their own checklist that's unique to them, that's consistently being updated as they complete things. Just want to pause real quick and see if we have any questions. I know I'm throwing out a lot of terms, and if you are not somebody who's usually interacted with Hornet Hub from the student perspective, it does look very different than our admin pages for those of you who do serve as org administrators for your centers. Just as a reminder, events is where workshops and area of growth events can be found. Forms is where their post-workshop reflections are available. And then opportunities is specifically where they can get an idea of their progress. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dive in just so you can see kind of what some of these pieces look like. So first off, I'm going to start by showing you what the Leadership Initiative Certificate program will look like in this system. So if you click on opportunities and then experiences, it'll take you to this page, which takes forever to load, I will admit that. Hornet Hub, for all that it does, is sometimes a bit slow. We do find it works best in Chrome and Firefox. If students are using it in any other browser than those, there have been many issues reported. So if they're having any challenges that they're reporting to you, that would probably be one of my first questions, is what browser they're using. But once we're in that experiences tab, Leadership Initiative Certificate is the first box on the far left. And then under this page is a big review of the entire program, the details kind of that Haley mentioned earlier as far as how it's structured, and just some general information about each of the different opportunities. So this page looks a little aggressive. So I think just be mindful that you can sort it in some different ways. If you wanted to just type in green certificate, only the requirements for green, vice versa, same with gold. But this page is helpful to guide students to, give some guiding principles about why the program was created, different reasons why they should participate, and benefits that they can expect. And then it'll take them directly to, as you can see, learn about this certificate and check your progress. So if I was a student from Summer Bridge and I know that I still had things left to do, I would click on green certificate and I would get an idea of what is still outstanding specifically for me. So this is how it will look for the students. If these things are done, there will be a checkbox in the place of where you're currently seeing view form or view experience, and that will be kind of the symbol in place so that they know that this is done. If you see view form or view experience, that means that either they haven't been credited for something or they have yet to complete that requirement, which makes it a little bit more challenging sometimes, not impossible. But what I love about the system is that if you click into any of these things, it'll automatically take you to the place within Hornet Hub where they can find some of the solutions that they're looking for. So if I was a student and I know that I need to attend Green 1 because I didn't attend that class in Summerbridge, or I'm just looking to start the green certificate, I would click on that and it'll automatically take them to a page where they can either verify that they attended and were credited for attending, or it'll take them to the area where they have the ability to access the reflection form, which I think is helpful because if students forget that there's other ways to navigate some of these things, they can also get right to the places where they're supposed to go just by clicking further into these systems. So that's kind of what the certificate requirement tab looks like. In the interest of not getting super far ahead of myself, I will say that the structure for the green certificate is to complete a pre-assessment, attend 3 workshops, green 1, 2, and 3, and then to attend 5 area of growth events. So they can attend those, any one that they want, but just making sure they have one of each: appreciating diversity, campus life, service, wellness, and professional development. Similarly, the gold certificate has the exact same structure, attending 3 workshops, gold 4, 5, and 6, and then again, completing 1 event in each of the 5 area of growth categories: appreciating diversity, campus life, professional development, service, and wellness. So I think for that purpose alone, it's sometimes easier for students to kind of get an idea of what needs to be accomplished. But like I said, the way that they do that is going to look a little bit different. So starting with clicking into this events tab, this is where they can start to see all of the events that are currently listed. Because we're still working with our campus partners to get events registered and make sure that they're in the system, the calendar is going to look a little light right now. I imagine if you check back in about a week or two, that hopefully there will be a lot more, so that the students can already ideally put things on their calendar and schedule some of this out. It's probably one of my biggest recommendations, is not encouraging our students to kind of figure it out as they go, but if possible, working with them to create a plan from the beginning. So if I can already see that there are 2 green workshops, one on the 15th and one on the 17th, and I know I can make the one at 1 p.m., I'm going to write that down on my planner or however I'm organizing myself so that I just kind of prioritize attending it as soon as possible. This is something that is a very helpful strategy. There's also a campus life event on here. There will be more opportunities. And then if they're specifically looking for things in specific categories, you can also sort it by tags. So if I just want green workshops and I just want to see that, I can sort it that way. You're also able to sort by area of growth opportunities. So if I am still in need of a campus life event, I can make sure that I'm just sorting it by that. If there's a specific event that they're looking for to make sure it's on the calendar, they can also type in some keywords. And then they can look at this calendar in a couple different formats, either kind of the blocks like I have. They could see it in a list format if that's more helpful, or you can see it in an actual calendar format. So depending on what's helpful for them visually, they can look at these in whatever way makes most sense. Any questions so far on certificate requirements or how to find events? Cool. The one piece that I encourage y'all to remind the students is when they click into like, oh, I want to go to this career panel, that's happening. Making sure that when they look at these opportunities that they're verifying that they are in fact part of the Leadership Initiative calendar. What's interesting about Hornet Hub is that sometimes other clubs and organizations or kind of other programs being facilitated by SOL end up on this calendar, and they are not all for Leadership Initiative credit. Sometimes there are events happening on campus that aren't registered to the calendar at all. And we've had students who are like, hey, I attended this. Why isn't it showing up on my page? And it's really important that they're verifying that the events they're attending are part of the LI calendar, because they won't get credit unless they're attending LI approved events. Even if it is something that potentially could have been an LI event, if they're not registered to our calendar, we try our best to just really make sure that we are helping them with that piece, and that they're also not attending events that aren't going to help them get closer to certificate requirements. So as you can see, when you scroll down on this specific event, under basic information, is this event part of the leadership initiative? Yes. If that yes isn't there, that's probably not an event that they should be attending, unless they just want to learn more about that subject. They are totally free to do what they want, but if they're specifically trying to get those requirements taken care of, I would recommend just kind of being super mindful of what's in that event description. They also will want to check that out to see if there's an RSVP link to a form that they have to fill out before attending. A lot of our campus partners, especially in COVID times, are using RSVP links, and then that is how the students get access to a Zoom code. And if they're missing that step, then they might not be able to attend the event whatsoever, let alone get credit for it. So just encouraging them to really keep an eye out on all that's going on in there, just because there are very different facets that we've not ever really needed to navigate before, with that being kind of one of the most popular we've seen so far. And then finally, that brings us to forms. So after our students have attended one of the green workshops, if they were missing green 1, 2, or 3, and or starting the gold certificate for gold 4, 5, and 6, they can pop over here and click on reflection form. The reflection form is universal. We no longer have a reflection form for every single workshop like we used to in OrgSync. What they'll need to do for this, assuming they've been credited for attending their workshop, is pick the workshop that they've attended. If they click this empty box here, or specifically this triangle in the corner, the only things that should show up in this dropdown are workshops that they have been checked in for. So if they're not seeing anything, that probably means that they had not checked in with the host of this workshop to make sure that they were getting credit for it. So that's already super important there too. They're attending green 1, they'll click on that, and then they'll go over to condition and select attend an event that has an LI certificate program opportunity. And that'll take them to their questions, and they'll fill it out right here. So they'll answer about 3 questions for every single certificate reflection. And then when they're done, they'll submit it up here. One piece that we've noticed is sometimes a point of confusion for the students, is that if you select this button just a hair more to the right of submit, you technically are able to save it as a draft. While they technically can do this, it does make it really confusing, because then we've had a lot of students share, hey, I submitted my reflection, why haven't I been credited? When in reality, they accidentally saved it as a draft and then don't realize that the reflection was never submitted. The reason why this is important is attending workshops require 2 pieces for it to end up as a completed requirement. They both have to attend and be credited, and they have to submit the reflection. Until they submit the reflection, it will not show up on their experience or involvement tab as a completed requirement. And it will live there forever. Assuming the student attends green 1 in September and they forget that they have to do the reflection, it'll still be there in December, it'll still be there in 2021. I encourage them not to do this, but it thankfully doesn't expire. It'll be there until they choose to address it. But I think sooner rather than later is the key. If they wait longer than a few days, they will forget that it's there, and that will be a barrier for them earning their certificate as well. So those are kind of all of the most popular navigation tabs: events for calendar events that they need to complete, forms to navigate any reflection form that they still need to work through, and then opportunities so they can track their progress and see how they're doing over a period of time. Any questions so far on how we can best support y'all with the students? Cool, yeah.
Ashley, it's me, Bede. I'm just curious to know if I can have access to kind of me in the background so I can get more familiarized, because I'm the type of person that I need to do hands-on things. I could just review a little bit further. Is that even a possibility for us to get access?
The side, yeah, absolutely. The side of Hornet Hub that I'm showing you is actually the public facing view. So you always have had the ability to kind of do all of what I just did. There's the admin backside portal, which for our purposes and supporting the students isn't really necessary. The only reason that you would want to be an org administrator for your center is if you're also planning to register events, which we can also review if that's helpful. But for the purposes of guiding the students really only ever interact with the front-facing Hornet Hub. And so long as you already have an account in the system, you should be able to guide them through all of this without any need for access provided.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, for sure. Are any of y'all also serving as org administrators, or are y'all familiar with whether or not we have registered centers in Hornet Hub? I can also check that if you're interested.
So I'm actually coming in from the student assistant perspective for the degrees project.
Cool.
And while I was on campus, I was an org administrator, but for a campus organization.
Okay.
So I actually wasn't aware that campus programs and departments also had Hornet Hub accounts. So if you could kind of like show us that, that would be great.
You got it. That was the whole reason I wanted to make sure. What we're finding is because Hornet Hub is so new, because we've really only had it for about a year now, that a lot of our campus departments, like you shared, weren't aware that they could be in Hornet Hub registering their own events. And it does limit the amount of opportunities that we have, especially if you're hosting things that you would love for your students and the cohort that's going through the certificate to be aware of. So let me just get myself to my admin dashboard really quick, and then I can show you what this could look like. So there are 2 steps to this process. The first step is to make sure you are in the system, because if you do not currently have a center profile that's been approved, then there will be an extra step for you that some of the other centers who have navigated this process in past will be able to skip past. So let me just look up a list of what centers that are currently in this space are already in the system so that I could ideally kind of cater the rest of this conversation.
Actually, I know for SACIP programs, we go through Kevin if we want to post any events.
Okay. Yeah. So that's definitely something that we've noted is there have been a lot of centers that used to kind of exist under like a big blanket. The other center that comes to mind is CDI. We've noticed that MCC, Women's Resource Center, and Pride Center did not have their own pages, but they all kind of functioned under the one umbrella, which is fine if that works for you. Should there be a goal of adding events on your own or having more kind of access specific to your program in future, you're always welcome to do that. Because yes, I'm seeing SACIP does have its own page. Feel free to continue going through Kevin if that's easy for y'all. Considering how many programs are represented under SACIP, I also would totally be happy to support y'all in creating individual pages unique to each of your programs. I will say that camp is not in here, so I'd be happy to help create a college assistant migrant program page or to give you the steps to do so. And then I'm also not seeing degrees is in here either. So that will be an opportunity for us to create a center page for you. And I can also follow up with some directions on how to do that. Just to make sure that we aren't getting too far ahead of ourselves. Because I know we've had a lot of campus partners so far who are trying to do events before they've been in the system, and then they're running into some hangups about the level of access they have and not being able to see some of the things on the step-by-step sheet that I created. So Natalie, I'm happy to follow up with you one-on-one just to give you the steps to create. And then should we need to schedule another opportunity to touch base to walk through the event registration process, happy to do so as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. I'll go ahead and take this back to our program coordinator, and I'll get back to you. But more than likely, that's probably something we would be interested in doing, just because, as you mentioned, it's super accessible for students. And we've been approved for leadership initiative events in the past, but of course, now times are really different. So this would definitely be a more accessible way for students to attend our events and have them be leadership initiative events.
Awesome, and we'd love to help with that.
Natalie, I think we should get SAS Day. You know, it might already be on there for EOP, or oh, okay, it's not there yet. I think we need to get SAS Day on here as a leadership initiative event, and we can get, you know, there'll be so many people that go to that, I think.
Yeah, I'll definitely take this back to Ruth, and then we'll talk to Dr. Watson if it's not on there already. But yes, that would definitely be a good idea.
Yes, there are, what you saw when we went to the events page, sadly, is all that is in the system so far. And we've put out a couple calls for events. I know that the semester is not only going to be completely different from what we're used to, but also probably going to get on top of us really quickly. I'm sure many of you are feeling just as stressed as I am when I look at my inbox every day. Excited for the humans to come back, and also want to make sure that our calendar can ideally help them see that getting their certificate this semester is possible. Particularly for our continuing students, because I think what we saw in the spring is I think everyone assumed leadership initiative went off the rails, and we did not do the best job of really communicating and remaining visible. And we would really love to start the semester strong with as many calendar events as possible, so students are able to kind of see the lily pads that they can jump to make this happen.
And Bede, Ashley and I were talking, and we would love to get all the students who are in Summer Bridge kind of like green lighted and ready to go into the gold certificate program.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any like conversations, or is that something you normally do?
I know in the past, kind of what happens for the gold certificate, we transitioned that to Abraham because he's a second year coordinator.
Okay.
I mean, first year coordinator, sorry, changing the names. But yeah, he definitely is the one that implemented in his ALS class for the gold certificate. So he would be the appropriate person, but I'm more than able to continue to share with the students and continue to encourage them to do the gold certificate.
Okay, cool. We'll follow up with Abraham too.
Yeah, and I usually do reminders as well during the semester. Don't forget, to sign up for the different workshops.
Awesome. I will share that I'm speaking tomorrow with camp. It looks like they're having an orientation for their students, and we're specifically talking about how to get started with the gold certificate, and likely a lot of what we shared today. So if I can create that opportunity, or Haley and I can speak with them again, because we'd love to see their faces, we definitely would be happy to put something together like that, or to jump into an existing opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm happy to also help with that. Maybe we could have it either before school starts, even though it's a week from now, but maybe having an opportunity for them to actually remind them. A lot of them are on vacation and probably they're checked out, but probably having something the first week of school and just kind of remind them, hey, you need to do what are the next steps? Because I do get quite often emails. So how do I do it? What's the second process? And from what I've been hearing from students, one of the best experiences that I had in the summer was doing your ALS class. So thank you for that. We've been getting a lot of good feedback. I never heard anything. Everything was very super positive.
That's awesome. And actually, Erica, who runs camp, she had to jump off, but I'm sure that she would appreciate that. So we want to be respectful of your time. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want us to cover in email when we follow up with you?
Haley, I just wanted to make sure that this recording would be available via the email once it's finished downloading and everything, just so that we can reference it.
Absolutely. And we'll try to post it on our website as well, in addition to sending it out by email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because I was just wondering if is there a video to walk through all the steps that Ashley shared today? If not, probably editing that particular part going through the website. I thought that'd be very beneficial because I didn't know how to do the forms, or how did it work different from OrgSync. So I appreciated that.
There is not, and now that we've shifted Green One used to pretty much serve as everything we just covered, of like the orientation of the entire program and specifically where to find all of the pieces that you need to be successful. And that's something that we've talked about is putting together a recording to serve just this purpose of like, here's navigation. We have handouts. But just like the handouts weren't really referenced when we were still in person, I sincerely doubt if we're sending those via email that they will be looked at all. So I think anything that we can do to really just be proactive and realistic about the best way to support our students, including having something that can live on the website permanently, is what we're interested in doing. Just haven't had that yet.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll send you this video, and then we'll work on the video step-by-step process as well. Great suggestion.
Thank you very much, Ashley.
Bye, Haley and Ashley. Miss you, girls.
Thank you for everything.
Bye-bye,
Thank y'all.
everybody.